it's a pain to start at the bottom, but you start at the bottom where you're weak. And if you want to rectify what's weak, you have to accept the fact that you're at the bottom and that the first steps are going to be painful.
I was bullied as a kid, and I was quite unpopular in school, and I was an only child, so I didn't really have many people to back me up, in the schoolyard or whatever. And I, for a long time, had a chip on my shoulder about the kids that mistreated me in school, as you might expect. And then I got toward, maybe a few years ago, and I really, really started to reflect on it and realized that so many of the things that I valued in myself were the light side of something dark that had been created during that time in school.
Almost all truly exceptional and mentally strong people have been through hell. It's very few that put themselves through hell when life is great.
Struggle is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think in our modern day and age, we have underappreciated and underrepresented the value of struggle. And if you ask anybody in their life, tell me about a time in your career where you felt like, boy, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done. I'm so glad I'm a part of this. It's not the big win. It's not the big success. It's not we finished everything on time and under budget. It's, oh my God, this one thing went horribly wrong. Oh my God, it went so badly. And yet, the way we came together.
Life is going to play out the way it's going to play out. There will be some good and some bad. Most of it is actually just up to your interpretation. You're born, you have a set of sensory experiences, and then you die. How you choose to interpret those experiences is up to you, and different people interpret them in different ways.
Most people think that to come back from a mental health issue like yours, you need psychiatric care and you need medication. And you're saying you did it with setting goals and hard work.
And the biggest thing we're missing here is I didn't do it with doctors and all them type of things. I done it with something way more powerful. God.
So your faith and your belief.
Me faith and belief that God would make me better made me better.
It took me years of a lot of grief and pain and work to get to be who I am today in spite of who I was. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose myself in business.
You can't have an easy life and a great character. You've got to kind of go out there and decide what you want. That's the first great adventure. And then getting it is the second great adventure. So it sort of speaks to that thing of wishing wells work. But they don't work when it's not the magic. The magic is you going, oh, what do I wish for? What do I want being the fundamental? If you know what you want, that's incredibly powerful. Most people don't.
I think for me, school was probably the most traumatizing and most difficult part of my life.
Wow.
I already was being bullied at the age of 6. I think at the time, that particular school, I was probably one of 3 kids of color. And just bigger, stronger, bullying kids were throwing me around a lot of the time. I was always the last picked in the, when you're standing in the playground and you're in the line of when they're picking teams for football, I was always the last one chosen or not even chosen, even if I was better than somebody else.
Some of the biggest growth leaps that I've seen in comics and even in fighters is a humiliating loss.
That's your moment. That's your moment. It's not that all is lost. When you're feeling the most trapped and down and nothing can go right, I feel like those are the moments that define you. Those are those character canon moments that are what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
How do you respond to that? And thinking your way, feeling your way, working your way through those things on the other side, it's I don't know who said the saying, but usually, you're the closest to getting what you want is always the hardest. It's always the feeling when you're getting ready to, people give up right before they get what they've always wanted to get. People quit.
I've been writing about the book of Job, and Job is a story of unjust suffering, fundamentally. God deems Job a good man, so we have it on God's word that Job is actually a good man, and then all hell breaks loose, partly because God makes a bet with Satan, which is, a hell of a thing to do, and says, do your worst. He's not going to turn on me no matter what you do. And so Job, despite his torment, He becomes very ill. He loses everything he has. His friends, he becomes ill in a way that's disfiguring. His friends come around and laugh at him and tell him that he's a bad man, and that's why all these terrible things have been happening to him. And it's brutal. And Job refuses to lose faith in himself. He says, look, I'm not perfect. But as far as men go, I've done what I should do, and I'm not being punished in some manner that's obviously related to my sin. It's more like the random play of tragic forces in the world. I'm not going to lose faith in myself no matter what. And I'm also not going to, his wife says, shake your fist at God, curse him and die. Because things have gone so badly for Job, she thinks that's all that's left to him, and he refuses to do that. So he maintains faith regardless of what's happened to him. And that's really the moral of the story of Job, which is that you are morally obligated to maintain faith no matter what happens to you.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory, pain. The difference is what they choose to do about it. Villain says, the world hurt me, I'll hurt it back. The hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not going to let it hurt anybody else. Heroes use pain, villains are used by it.
I was the lowest form on earth, no talent, no ability to learn, and I literally know what it is to be rock bottom and to build that up.
What would you say to anybody that's lost direction in life in the way that you have?
I would say I'm still in the midst of it, but I do believe it will be for the better. I feel like the path I was on I knew when I was on it wasn't the best for me. So if I stayed on that path, it might not be lost, but I'm not discovering anything else. And at least in being lost, you might discover something new that's better.
You're not having a bad year. You've had a few bad days that you're thinking about for the rest of the year. I've found it helpful when I'm in a bad season, like I'm in right now, to just focus on having a good day. A good day in a bad season is a bite-sized victory. String a few of those in a row, and a bad season feels less hard. I'm pretty sure the difference between a happy life and an unhappy one doesn't come down to how many good or bad days you have, but which days you think about over and over again. In some seasons of life, maintaining is winning.
Part of the moral that's embedded in the story of Job and in the Christian passion is that you can master what you'll face. And maybe that's true.
It comes from such deep thought of trying to see what this is all about. What is this life all about? What am I all about? Why am I here? You know, I had to find purpose, and my suffering, it had a purpose.
Why do I think people are drawn to advice telling them to do hard things? Because I think any person, any human realizes that if you want some kind of a good outcome, you're going to have to work hard for it. and if you don't work hard for something, you're not going to get an outcome that's really worth much.
And there's a practical side to that. So imagine that God and Satan conspire against you. There'll be times in your life where it feels like that's happening. And then imagine that your reaction to that is to become bitter and resentful and hostile. Well, then whatever hell you're in, merely as a consequence of the confluence of tragic events, you have opened a whole other hell underneath it. The hell of bitterness and resentment and ingratitude, and that turns into the desire for revenge very, very quickly. You think things are bad just because they're bad. You wait till you see how bad they can become if you allow yourself to be corrupted by your unjust suffering.
You probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the things that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's step one. And then step two is, and I'm quite grateful for what I've done. And then step three would be something like, wow, I'm proud of myself for having turned something that was negative into something that's positive.
Mm-hmm.
But then another level above that would be, wow, so maybe I should be thankful